You know what, Jamie? Let's pop off right now. We got to get started.
We gotta go.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get the people in the chat. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hit and Hustle from IRSportsDaily.com. I'm your host, Greg Flamong, and with me, as always, is Jamie Uwayama, Mr. Jamie University. It is Thursday, October 12th, 2 sleeps away from Notre Dame's matchup against USC. The big rivalry, the longest rivalry going, intersectional rivalry that's going right now. Always a big game. There's been a little bit of a damper put on it because of Notre Dame's loss to Louisville last week, but this is a huge week for the Notre Dame football program, and I think a victory here would kind of put them back on track, Jamie. I know that you would like to have seen, you'd like to be at least the one loss going into this game, but I think beating USC would, in the minds of a lot of fans, and even kind of myself, just that. I think this would put the Notre Dame program kind of back on a track that you could feel good about. And that's how quickly these things can change, right, Jamie? Like, we are so down on Notre Dame offense right now and the way that they're performing. And it's hard to kind of see them, especially coming off of last week, having success going forward. But, things change very quickly in college football and in life and everything. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about some of the Marcus Freeman comments from the press conference that's taking place right now. He's talked about midterms week. So this is the week of midterms, which is always kind of a hot topic with Notre Dame sports and football, especially. There's been years where it doesn't matter, and there's been years where it kind of seems like it does matter. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If this is your first time catching the show, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so you know that we're going live. I have put Jamie's 6 thoughts on a Thursday in the description below because there's always a must-read document every week, every Thursday. Jamie does a great job with that. And links to the podcast are also in the description below, so you can catch us in the audio format if that is what you're looking for. Before we get to some of Marcus Freeman's comments, Jamie, just how are you feeling about this week? How are you feeling about the upcoming game and what this game could mean for the Notre Dame football program?
I think I feel exactly how you do in terms of it's a critically important week and can really kind of flip everything, flip the entire narrative of Notre Dame football right now. Specifically with the offense, that's just college football, right? Like it's insane to think that, I wrote about in 6 thoughts that it's Miami was 4-0, feeling better than ever. They basically, it's funny because Notre Dame is so much further along in the season than most teams. Like, if you play 2 more games than a lot of teams, but Miami was 4-0. They beat Texas A&M at home. Every game was like a big blowout. Their offense was great. And then they lose to Georgia Tech, who had lost to Bowling Green the week before. And all they had to do, they could have still just came up with a win and felt okay, not felt great, but then they didn't take a knee at the end of the game, fumble the game away, and the Georgia Tech scores. That's how quick he can flip. And then Mario Cristobal was like, man, he's really got things going. And then all of a sudden he's on the hot seat. Like, that's just how it is. And it's just like how after Ohio State, people were feeling, not great, but they were definitely not bad. And then just all of a sudden it's just like, it was like a slow, and then boom, the dam burst with Louisville. And it's one of these things where if, you fix the leaks this week, all of a sudden optimism for the rest of the season, optimism for the rest of the way with Marcus Freeman and the program, that changes, right? And there's still going to be questions about the offense no matter what because of the defense they're playing. So it's like, can be a get right week for the offense, but that doesn't really mean much in the long run. But it does mean a lot in the short term for that to happen, because if they can't get right this week against this offense, then that is a serious issue that probably needs to be addressed during the bye week.
Right. Yeah. And you always got to get right, whether it's your offense or your defense, or whether it's your clothing game, Jamie. Sometimes you're not. It's not where it needs to be, right? And you need to evaluate your clothing game at all times. I think it's very easy to get bogged down into the same things you wear day after day to work, and your clothing game could use a little spice. And one thing you could do for that is go to esqclothing.com, who has created the world's first bamboo dress shirt crafted from high quality bamboo fabric. It's the softest and most comfortable shirt you'll ever put on. It's not only more sustainable than cotton, but also feels cooler, has stretch, is odor and wrinkle resistant, and it's even machine washable. You've seen ESQ's one-piece collar bamboo dress shirt, and it's the perfect shirt for today's business meeting or heading for a night out. So you've seen it on Notre Dame's top players and coaches, Jamie. And if you use ISD 15 and get 15% off all online items, that's ISD 15 for 15% off. I mean, I know I get into these situations, Jamie, when like I wear the same shirts all the time. Like it just like I'm always I wear this. Or it's like, I wore this shirt. That's the last wedding I went to, or the last nice dinner I went to. I wore this shirt. I need new stuff. ESQclothing.com will take care of you on that front. Jamie, I keep looking for updates from the press conference. Are people not asking good questions, Jamie?
I don't know, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of stuff on the personnel.
Here's the question, or here's a comment. Matt just posted this. Marcus Freeman says Notre Dame will start the normal starting five on the O-line. Play will dictate if they use a rotation. You hate to see that. Again, you're going into the game, what does that mean, play, right? Like, how bad of play are we talking about? Is it like a series or two? Is it play by play? They're evaluating these guys.
My guess is that it's the kind of thing that if someone has like a bad, I think it's like quick hook, right? Yeah. Is my guess by him being kind of diplomatic about it. It's like, hey, it's going to be a quick hook. And then if the next guy comes in and then say they score on that series and he does well, it's like, well, that guy's finishing the game. Like it could be how it is. And I mean, that's not that different. Like USC literally had it last week with their right tackle. He got yanked and, gave up a sack, gave up a pressure on back-to-back plays. Excuse me. Didn't play the rest of the game. So it's the kind of thing that can happen. I'm going to guess that's kind of how they'll judge it.
Kind of thing that can happen. It's not the kind of thing that you want. Certainly,
no,
8 games into the season, you don't want to be in this position, but that is the position that Notre Dame finds themselves in. Let's see. Keith Hearing asks, what's your feeling if the outcome is a 38-35 loss or a 38-35 win?
You go first.
Well, I mean, the win. I mean, you any win, you feel good. Like, so that's fine. I do think like this is one of those situations where Notre Dame could play well and lose. And that's difficult, right? Like that would be the toughest thing. And so a 38-35 loss would be difficult to take because, it's your third loss of the year, regardless of whatever kind of loss it looks like. And that's why this game is like,
it's so important.
You don't want to say must win, but it's
up there.
Close to that. It's close. Like it's, you need to win because you dropped the game against Louisville. Notre Dame was 5-3 last year, right? Like you do want to see improvement. And I don't know that you can really come out of this season feeling great and feeling like the team markedly improved, just like as a program, when you have 3 losses there. Even if you went out like 9-3, you're just kind of spinning your wheels.
Even 10-3. Yeah. Well, I think, dude over here who's never been in the chat before comes in and pops in, just whatever. And no offense to this dude, but just that's what happens when things are going bad. Someone randomly pops up to say, this guy, Marcus Freeman, is in over his head. I mean, no one was coming in over the top ropes when it's going good to say whatever. Right. Those people just wait and they come in, and guess what? it's going to get louder. There's going to be more people saying that if they lose. So that's the kind of thing that even if you play well, like you said, that's the difference, right? That's why you got to win. And honestly, too, like I am predicting that it's going to be a tight game and it could go either way. And I really think this is probably a game where turnovers are going to be a big deal. Like I do think turnovers are going to be a big deal in this game, because if USC steals possessions, I think that's just, it's over for Notre Dame. Like if they end up having a couple more possessions because of turnovers, basically, I don't think Notre Dame can overcome that, right? But if Notre Dame does the same, like that's how they win the game, really, right? So that's going to be critically important. It's going to be critical, just like how one of the things last year with Clemson. I mean, it's not to say that Notre Dame didn't control that game for most of the game, but Ben Morrison, like those picks, huge, right? Those were
block punt touchdown.
block punt touchdown, huge.
They didn't score their first offensive touchdown until late in the quarter.
They couldn't even throw in the game. Like they won the game because of those other things, right? And that's why it became a blowout, right? So that's the kind of thing that's going to matter in this game. So the defense can play. They're going to be obviously tested. Caleb Williams is going to make some plays. They're going to make some plays in the passing game, but can the defense make enough plays to get off the field when they need to? Can they, make enough plays to, create a turnover? Can they get like a little bit more fumble luck? Right. They get that kind of thing. Like that's just going to matter, right? It is going to matter in this game. I wanted to bring up this too, because even though it's not kind of related to this, but I was thinking about, because one of the reasons I think that people aren't accounting for, and I probably didn't even account for this too much, was that Notre Dame's O-line and Sam Hartman. Okay, Sam Hartman's only been as good as the offensive line has been, basically. I would say, right? When the offensive line has protected him really well, when they've been able to run the football, Sam Hartman looks great. Get the little way too early Heisman campaign stuff for Sam Hartman. When they haven't, it hasn't looked good. It hasn't looked good. So Sam Hartman at home, 72.5% completions, 10.4 yards per attempt, 10 touchdowns, 0 INTs, 0 sacks. 0 sacks at home. They've given up 0 sacks at home. Away, 56.5% completions, 8.3 yards per attempt, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks, 11 sacks. 11 sacks to 0. Wow. Like, I didn't even really think about that, but until I literally just popped in my head before we started the podcast. But I mean, that's huge. And so I think you could say the offensive line has played much, much better at home than they have. That they've been obviously affected by the crowd with false starts, all that kind of stuff. They've just been obviously they've played in hostile environments. The defense has been keyed up, and they've just gotten their butts kicked. Frankly, they haven't won those battles. Even in the NC State game, I wouldn't say that Notre Dame's offensive line won the battle in that game. If you maybe could call it a stalemate at best over the course of the game. And so that's saying I think that Notre Dame's offensive line will be better in this game, but just because of the environment, and Hartman will be better because of that. So I think that's a reason to be optimistic, a lot more optimistic about the offense and Hartman and the O-line.
Keith is he kind of provides a little bit more context to his question. He's asking, are you more concerned with the outcome or how the offense performs? Obviously you want to win, but are the vibes still down if somehow this thing ends up a 2017 win? So let's say the offense struggles to and they still win the game, right? I think the vibes, to me, there would still be concerns about the pretty big concerns. USC's defense can be had. If you can't get over on USC, that's I mean, that's concerning for the rest of the season. You know, like
red flag.
That's a big red flag. I think the vibes would be a lot better. I mean, look, winning is winning, right? Winning feels good. And so Keith said, from the standpoint of the rest of the season, I would be very concerned about them being able to put up points against any defense if they can't move the ball and score points against USC. Like Drew Pine put up 28 on them, you know, and he was able to move the ball. I mean, they had a couple of turnovers, right? Like, look, if Notre Dame scores 20 and it's just like a bunch of weird turnovers and, you know, the ball comes out, I mean, we're assuming like 20 points, they're not really playing that well offensively, right? So I'm just kind of, a lot of things could go in a certain kind of way where it's like, okay, I give the offense kind of a pass for the number of points scored. But generally speaking, if they can't move the ball in this defense, it's very, very concerning going forward. So I think there's kind of like, that's how I view that. I put up a stat yesterday about Notre Dame's success rates, Jamie. When basically in the first 5 games when they had Jaden Greathouse and Jaden Thomas healthy, right? Obviously against the lesser defenses, it was like really good. But I mean, you're looking at like 50% success rate against Ohio State, 43% success rate against NC State, 26%, I think it was 26 or 28% against Duke, and then 39% against Louisville. And the point of the tweet is I'm not trying to, someone's like, well, they should be able to adjust and all those things. It's not an excuse. What I'm saying is there is something to the fact that not having those guys affects the offense in some kind of way, that whether it's just from a play calling standpoint, what is installed, what they're trying to run, the types of runs that they're trying to do, because Jaden Thomas is obviously one of their best blockers. I just think that matters to the offense for whatever reason. So I'm interested to see if those guys are actually going to be healthy. Jaden Thomas was clearly not healthy last week.
Yeah.
Borderline irresponsible to play him, frankly. It's a hamstring, Jamie. It's not an ankle.
Yeah.
It's a muscle. Like you can delay the healing of the muscle if you put him out there too soon. Same thing with Jaden Greathouse. It just and then it didn't work out at all. You're not even really throwing him the ball. So that's tough, but it'll be interesting to see if those guys are healthy and ready to go. But I mean, I will admit, like the more I've watched USC and the more I've kind of talked to people affiliated with USC and the way that they feel about their team, I mean, I do think that there's at the beginning of the week, I was just like, I don't see it. And at this point, I do see it. I do see how this works out for Notre Dame. And I'm wondering if you've kind of come to the same conclusion over time.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, that kind of going back to that, if they won 2017 thing, if that is just something where there's so many red flags on USC's side in terms of what they have on defense. Like they played literally the worst part of their schedule, like all of their hard games. Like I can't even actually remember another team that had a setup like them where they had like, here's the first 6 games are the easiest games of your schedule. Well, the last 6 are the hardest. Like I don't recall any college football team ever having that. And they have to play 6, weeks straight of their toughest games, which is why they're probably, no matter what happens in this game, they're probably not going undefeated because they're just they don't have depth in terms of guys are going to get injured. Caleb Williams will just have to be otherworldly for them to win all of those games. And it's just a lot to ask him to do that 12 of 12, against good teams, right? So, and the defense has frankly against the bad teams, so the defense is slightly improved. They're like 64th in DF plus or whatever. Let me double check what the actual number is, but they are. So last year, oh man, God, they were so bad last year. last year they were 101 in DF plus, so the combined FEI and SP plus. This year they're up to 69th through 6 games, but it's misleading because they played all their toughest opponents in the back half. Like I said, FEI has them 86th. They are not turning the ball over the same way that they were last year. They had 29 takeaways last year. They have 8 in 6 games. So it's not the same kind of defense. They create a bunch of havoc, 21% havoc rate. But again, it's against the worst teams they're going to play. And when they started to play the Pac-12 teams that they played, which I'd say those are easily in the bottom tier, the Pac-12 teams that they played. Because even if you want to say like, hey, yeah, Colorado's got some talent. Yeah, for sure. But I mean, Colorado, they're also playing Colorado where they're beat up and they don't have Travis Hunter and all of these other factors. And they still almost lost that game. They almost lost to Arizona, at home. That wasn't a road game in Arizona. They almost lost to Arizona at home. So I think that there's a lot of red flags in terms of the number of big plays they give up. They've given up 11 rushes of 20 plus yards, which is 112th, 128th in explosive passes against, 130th in total explosive plays against them. That's horrible. Like it's you don't see a team that is the most explosive offense and then literally like the give up the most explosive plays on defense against bad teams, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if Notre Dame doesn't get them, and that's on 100%, that's a red flag on Notre Dame, because I can guarantee you Oregon's going to get them. Washington's going to get them. They're going to have a ton of big plays against them, right? And I think that this is a game. So if you only score 20 points, that means, first of all, if you only give up 17, throw the parade for the defense.
That's incredible. That would be amazing. Yeah. That would be very, very good.
Yeah, that would be incredible. But if you only score 20 points, I think against the USC's defense, I think that you want the win and you feel good about Marcus Freeman, you feel good about the defense, all that, but you absolutely go into that bye week thinking like, man, I think we got we got to really make some serious changes here. And then obviously it all kind of leads into the off season because changes will come. Change like that. I think it's pretty much guaranteed at that point.
Mm-hmm. So USC has gotten kind of worse with the way that they've been playing. They had the first 3 games not challenged at all. Then they had a bye, right? So they started week 0 just like Notre Dame. Then they had a bye and came out of the bye against Arizona State, the Fighting Drew Pines. Drew Pine, if every game that he played was against USC, I mean, he'd be unbelievable. But so he played well against them. USC is in a 35-28 game. I mean, this is a team that got shut out by who was it that shut them out, Jamie? Arizona State. They lost 29-0 to some team. Was it Washington State?
I think it was Wazoo. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Wazoo too. So they lost 29-0. Couldn't score points. They're in a 35-28 game into the fourth quarter against Arizona State. And that's like, okay, that was their first kind of like, this is a little squirrely game. Then you get Colorado 48-41, right? Where it's like, they weren't totally in danger of ever actually losing that game because Colorado never had the ball with a chance to tie, right? So that one was, but it was just like, hey, the Colorado had just got absolutely bludgeoned by Oregon, just got crushed. Yeah. And so then it's like a close game against USC and their fans are just kind of like, all right, like this is really not good. Like this is not what we wanted, especially from the defense. Last week, you go down 17-0 to Arizona.
Oh, Fresno State. Sorry, Michael Hahn corrected us. Sorry.
Oh, Fresno State. Fresno State. 29-0 to Fresno State, right? Like that's the thing, And so they play Arizona. You go down 17-0. The USC scored on just kind of like a miracle play, like right before halftime to make it 17-14. Arizona State frankly kind of blew the game. USC took their turn to blow the game as well. But like Arizona just, they had the game. They missed a field goal late. USC botched the field goal attempt. USC scores in overtime. And then Arizona. Well, I don't understand these teams, Jamie. They go down and score the touchdown, and they have a chance to go for 2 to win. And the coach kicks the extra point. I don't understand. Right? I don't understand that decision. Like, you can win the game, and Caleb Williams is standing over there. Like, he is over there, can't hurt you. And they don't take it. And so then, of course, the next overtimes, you have to go for 2. So you're being forced into it later. I don't like that. But it just, the trend of USC has started to go in a bad way. It has. And Rajon asked the question, if I could find it. Where is it? Here it is. Rajon says, with USC's defense, is it personnel? Is it scheme? Like, why are they so consistently poor on the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, obviously, there's something wrong with the scheme. Like, to have as many errors as they make and have as many busts, that's coaching. So maybe not even the scheme, but just how they're teaching the scheme.
Yeah,
there's something wrong there. Like, that is absolutely something that's happening. And I do think there is something to, and I was saying this kind of privately to people, but there's something with Lincoln Riley and how they structure the program that is not good for defense. Like, because I mean, I'm not to say that if they got Brett Venables, they wouldn't have a better, they'd have a better defense. Yes. Right. But would they be able to run the practice the way that Brett Venables wanted to run practice?
Yeah.
Probably not. Right. Like, why are they 111th in tackling? Like, they have athletes.
Yeah.
Like, they have athletes. Even the guys that step in for them, like, so they're very hurt at corner right now, right? They had their 4th and 5th corner starting in the game. And it's not to say those guys are good. Sierra Wright and Prophet Brown played at the end of the game. I mean, these guys were 4-star kids. Like, they were guys that
Notre Dame
wanted. Notre Dame wanted those guys. So I think that there's something obviously wrong there with how the whole operation is kind of like with Notre Dame. The whole operation, there's something rotten with the whole operation. I do think personnel-wise, they aren't great, like, which is why they had to go into the portal so much. And their best players are portal players, right? Like, Mason Cobb, their Mike linebacker, is an Oklahoma State transfer, right? He was second team All Big 12 last year. Both edge guys, it's Georgia State transfer and a Wyoming transfer, right? Bear Alexander, Georgia transfer, right? Those are the 3 best guys up front. But the other starting linebackers, like, there's kind of split there. Is an Arizona State transfer and an Alabama transfer. In the secondary, Caleb Bullock is the only guy who's like a homegrown guy, basically. No, Damani Jackson. Is another guy as well. But Christian Roland Wallace is the Arizona. It's like they start all transfers, which can be okay. But the reason you're going after those guys is because you don't have other guys on the roster that have been developed, right? So that's kind of where they're at. And it's not to say that some of those guys aren't very good players, because some of them are. But there's guys who are individual. You're like, man, this guy's a good player, but they don't play well as a unit. So that is coaching, that's scheme, that's all of that. And also too, there is something to say about many of these guys transfer, and for every guy that transfers that is like a stud guy that is just looking for a better opportunity, there's also other guys that's like, there is a little bit of element of this guy's kind of a quitter. You know what I mean? Like, so Bear Alexander, I'm not to say the guy's a good player, whatever, but he's been at he went to 4 high schools in 4 years. You know, he went to Georgia for 1 year. He's at USC. You think if somebody else doesn't offer him a bag, he's not going back to the SEC? Like that would happen, right? But I mean, now he's probably not doing it because of the one-time transfer rule being more strict, but like that easily could happen. You know, like he could try to find a way around it because that's how the mentality of guys like him, right? So I don't know. And so when you have you look at where Notre Dame's at and how they've improved, and even like, oh man, how's Notre Dame going to be better on defense? Like, I think they're going to be better because it's the second year, but so many of those guys are so much better. Like Howard Cross and Riley Mills are so much better. JJB obviously is a new guy, but he is way better than he was at Ohio State. Like Marist is way better this year. Like Bertrand, I would say, is around the same, but a little bit better, right? Like, and the safeties, and I know there's, you know, they've had some issues with tackling stuff, but in general, the safeties are better. The corners are better. Like the group together is better. Well, other than JJB, everybody has basically, and other JJB and Thomas Harper, everybody's back from last year for Notre Dame. So they all know the system. They like tailored stuff and cut stuff around the personnel that they had. And that's part of the reasons why they're so successful and they've taken a jump. And it's got to be hard to do that at USC when you're just bringing in guys left and right. And it's not to say like, yeah, you wouldn't take, if Notre Dame could get, you know, some of these guys in the portal, I'm sure they'd take them, right? But they'd still have the base of the defense would be the main guys that they've developed, have been in the system. And they just don't have that. And I think it's really hard to play good defense when you're just bringing in mercenaries all the time.
Right. I mean, we've talked about, you know, how important it is that Notre Dame has in the second year of the same defense and what that means to players. Like if you bring in a bunch of transfers, by definition, they have not been in your defense. So they don't work. I mean, not just that, but they've been in all sorts of different defenses all over the country. So it's not like they were all learning the same defense and they're all like, they're having to, there's different levels of having to unlearn things and learn your own stuff. And I do think there is something with the culture that he has in terms of like, just like his mindset. And when I say his, I mean Lincoln Riley. His mindset seems to be just get my offense the ball. However, just get us the ball. If it's by turning it over, that's the best way.
Yeah.
If it's by them scoring, at least we have the ball, you know, like he wants the ball all the time. Like their mindset seems to be get us 3 or 4 stops a game and we'll be fine. That's what they got last year.
Yeah.
You know, they stopped Notre Dame on the first one. They stopped Notre Dame deep on a 4th down and they recovered a fumble. And that's it. Notre Dame scored on the rest of the possessions, but it's like, that was good enough, you know, like that was good enough to win the game by double digits. And that seems to be the way that they go about doing things. Golden said they tailored the D to the schedule more this year. Yeah, like they were able to make adjustments, right? Like Golden was able to figure out his team and figure out, you know, how they needed to go about things. That's part of being in the system, right? I think something that I've kind of noticed about USC and their defense is you have to put them in position to bust.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of what Notre Dame has done and kind of did at the beginning last year is when you're just kind of running at them, well, they're not in position to bust because they're just, then it's like, okay, you're coming straight at me. You're not making me think. You're not making me kind of challenging me. You're not putting me at risk in any kind of way.
Yeah,
and then they started to throw. Yeah, you got to stress them. And then you start to throw and it's like, well, wait, why am I turning this guy loose? Like, and the other part too is you have to, when you spread them out and you give them a bunch of things to look at too, like that also makes Alex Grinch have to make some decisions. And he is just not very good at that. I mean, they lined up in some defenses against Notre Dame last year that were like, what? Like that is never working. And of course, Notre Dame would just take it and they would, you know, gash him for 11 yards. And so he'll make some bad decisions too. But if you're just lining up and just kind of straightforward running at them, that kind of takes away all of the the disadvantages they have with the bus and that sort of thing. Like, you do have to stress them. You do have to have them make decisions, like real time in play decisions, and that's something that Notre Dame has not done, right? So tell me, how do you think Notre Dame ought to go about attacking the defense, and then we'll get into the Caleb Williams problem in just a second.
Well, I mean, I really think that I mean, I hate to say that, like, they got to play action is going to be big, but it has to be big in this game. It really does. They have to be better at play action. But I mean, I think it actually, though, and you know what? It's so funny because, you know, I see people mentioning trestle ball, and I get it because Marcus Freeman, his mentor, you know, his college head coach was Jim Tressel, and people are like, "Oh God, trestle ball, whatever." Those people didn't watch Notre Dame for like basically the past 5 years before that. Notre Dame wasn't a slinging team. Basically, Brian Kelly, you know, Chip Long, Tommy Rees, they were playing kind of a version.
They
of
were trestle ball.
They were trestle ball.
What we would call it. They're not playing any different than they have.
Yeah, and a lot of it is dictated by the personnel, right? So, and that kind of leads into how I think Notre Dame should play. Play to the personnel. And if Notre Dame, like, you have to be able, I know there's times, if they got a loaded box, they got 10 in the box on first down, yes, throw the ball, RPO it, you know, throw in some play action, do some more, be a bit more creative. Yes, absolutely. Like Rajon, motion and formations, do more of that. Yes, absolutely. But the base of it has to come from them winning up front. Because if you can't take advantage of USC up front, you can't win the line of scrimmage. If Notre Dame can't do that based on kind of how they're built, they're not going to win any games. That's just how it is. And that's how Notre Dame is built right now. And I think a lot of us got caught up in the idea that Sam Hartman's going to come and he's immediately going to improve all of these things that Notre Dame had problems with before in terms of the passing game. And I think that it's obviously not that simple because Notre Dame, just even healthy, doesn't have the talent at the the outside skill positions that they want to have in order to be able to throw the ball and chuck it around as much as they probably would like to. And especially when they're hurt, they definitely don't. So I think depending on the health of these guys, you have to look at what what you have there and then base it off of that, right? And I'm not saying play congested all the time like they did. Like, they had the one time where they had like 4 tight ends in the field and then they spread it out like it was 10 personnel and threw the ball. That's fine. Mix it up. That's exactly what you're talking about, Greg, in terms of making USC think and be like, what? Like, that's how you get USC. So do plenty of that, but you have to be able to run the ball when you have to run. You have to be able to convert on 3rd and short. You have to, and there was a question earlier about what does Joe Rudolph have to do this week? And the main thing Joe Rudolph has to do is, like, not even like say, like, guys, we need to just dominate the line of scrimmage. It's like, if I'm him, like, I'm like, hey, guess what? Guess what you guys are doing all this week when you're not studying? You're in the room with me and we're literally going over film. We're walking through every single blocking scenario because, and I'm getting tight ends in there too, because those mistakes that they had in those short yardage things, that should never happen. That should never happen. Those are like week 1 mistakes, not like their 7th game mistakes. So if they can't get that right, then it's over. It's over right away. It's over before it even starts. USC will kill Notre Dame if they can't do that. So if they get that part right, then they can kind of build off it from there. But I'm also going to add too that, Greg, and it's something that you've been talking about before. So let's just say Jane Thomas, say he's healthy. Get Jaden Thomas an opportunity in the slot and let him work against one of either, USC's nickel or any of USC's safeties, because he's going to win that matchup.
Yeah.
Get him there, and he doesn't have to line up there the whole game, but get him there at least a couple of opportunities where you're taking advantage of that. Get your guy who's your best receiver, let him win there.
Yeah, I just think you have to put, you can't waste him. You're wasting him out there. They're not getting the ball. Sam Hartman's not looking there. There was a chart I was looking at yesterday. His APA per play when throwing to the slot is so much better than it is when he's throwing to the outsides. You need to take advantage of that, right? You need to take advantage of those opportunities. And then you need to, it's just kind of basic stuff. Like, do the thing that they don't expect you to do. Like, we were talking yesterday in our group text about how after the turnover Notre Dame got in the first play of the second half, they came out in 14 multiple tight ends and ran toss weak. Look, when you line up like that, you're saying we want to run the ball. And then you did, and they lost 5 yards, right? And it's like, it doesn't have to be 5 yards, but that's like a perfect situation to be like, you know what? We're lining up heavy. I'm going to stick the ball out, and I'm going to show them the ball. I'm going to say, I'm handing this ball off to Audric Estime. And then you pull it back, and you send Evans up the seam, and you send Stays on a wheel route. And you take a shot that way. That's using personnel, that's going against tendency, and that's stressing them and making them like you're doing something they don't expect. Why not? Why not do that? Every time Notre Dame ends up in heavy, they run the ball. You expect it, right? 1st and 10. You can take a shot in that situation. It just doesn't seem like it, right? That's the kind of thing that you need to do to stress defenses, and that's what you do against this kind of defense, where it's like they're going to jump everything. That is the way they are. They want to be aggressive. They want to take the ball. So then show them something and do something else, right? And do it over and over again. And so that sounds like a well-designed play. Yeah, it does. I don't want to be all like Greg knows everything or Jamie knows everything or anything like that. It's just that it's kind of standard stuff that teams do to take advantage of situations. And if you want some designs, Jamie, do you want something well designed?
I knew it was coming.
You do? You know what you do, Jamie? You know what you do? You call VSR Media.
I call VSR Media. Yeah.
You call VSR Media, which is founded by Notre Dame football pregame host and Emmy Award-winning anchor Vahid Sadrazadeh. VSR Media provides professional and cinematic video and photo. Whether you're looking for a collegiate or pro-level highlight reel, have a personal story to tell, or are aiming to diversify and grow your business, VSR Media specializes in short and long-form video storytelling, social media management, and website design. VSR Media also captures professional headshots, senior, and sports photos. Contact them at vsrmediacompany.com. Mention Irish Sports Daily to receive 20% off your first project. Visit them online or give them a call at 574-800-9106. Jamie, how does Al Golden solve the problem that is Caleb Williams and this offense?
Well, one, I think it absolutely – the big problem last year that they were kind of hung out to dry because the D line didn't do a good enough job up front, and the front six basically didn't do a good enough job. They have to be able to stop the run, right? They can't have those kind of holes that they gave up in last year. So that's going to be very important in this game. But I really think that it's about being as unpredictable as possible. If you try to just pressure Caleb Williams all game, they're just going to kill you. You're going to eventually give up something big. If you sit back and drop 8 all day, you're going to get killed. You have to it's got to be constantly mixing it up. You have to play disciplined. in the secondary, you have to tackle well, right? And that's something obviously Notre Dame hasn't tackled well. They're not as bad as USC, but they haven't tackled good overall this season, right? So they're like 72nd or something in PFF's tackling grade, which I think is about right. They've been kind of a average to below average tackling team. Well, this game they have to be very good at that. So that's part of it. But I really think it's about showing him different things, and it's about winning up front. And like you can win by not. You want to get them on the ground. Obviously, Utah beat them twice last year. They sacked him 11 times in those 2 games, right? Yeah, that's big. It's a little bit misleading though, because in the one game where they sacked him 7 times, that was where he had the hammy.
Yeah.
He couldn't do the Houdini stuff, right? So
he's
going to do some Houdini stuff. He's going to create that. But if you just get him to, throw it away, to not like to just contain him enough where he's got to make like just the really, really difficult throws, not the throws where he's like, he breaks out of the pocket, a guy breaks off, and then they can create a big play, but where he's got to like change his arm angle and make just like a sick, just Pat Mahomes type throw that's got to be on the money 15 yards down the field. That's kind of, if you do it, then it's like, what do? You tip your cap to him and then you get back and play ball again. But the teams who have done the best against them have stopped them from throwing deep and limited him, said, here's the short stuff. Take it. Take the short stuff. We're going to get you if you throw intermediate, right? So he's like 50% and below intermediate. If you can do that, if you hold them to like not a positive EPA per dropback, not a lot of teams do it. That's what Oregon State did when they almost beat them. That's what Arizona State did, or Arizona when they almost beat them. And that's what Utah did when they beat them, right? Because otherwise, if you don't, then it's on your offense to just outscore them. So that's the main thing. You just can't. Caleb Williams can still be good. He just has to be below expectations. That's the main thing.
Marshawn Lloyd is the key to the whole game, in my opinion. He's a good running back. He's good. And they always are getting him downhill. And we've talked about it a bunch. Like they are always running into light fronts. Basically, anytime they run the ball, it's like a good situation, right? Because the defense has to key on everything else, right? You have to worry about even Caleb Williams just running. That's the key. Like this is such a huge, huge game for Riley Mills and Howard Cross. It's just a huge. I mean, they have to win, and that just needs to be like the problem 1A that they need to solve. Like they need to win, and those linebackers, they need to win. They need to be aggressive. They need to win against those pullers, right? You can't just eat blocks against Marshawn Lloyd because he'll kill you, and he is the biggest problem. I think it's just and even on their pass rush too. Like you need to be able to push those guards in the center back, get them back, and get him retreating, so that he can't just stand there, because USC loves to run these deep routes, and they run these combo routes too that kind of take a long time, and they're very dependent on that pass protection holding up, for the first few seconds, right? And then if it breaks down, well, then it's like then Caleb Williams can get away. But there are a lot of things that they call that they take a long time to develop. Have to win just like right at the point there. And it's like you said, get him thinking, show him something, and then give him something else, right? Any quarterback, it doesn't matter. He's going to do magical things, but the more you stress him mentally, the harder it is to then execute perfectly after the snap, because you're thinking about things, right? Like you always want them to be unsure of what you have. And I think, it is such a big deal this week that they have their guys in the secondary. They have all their guys. Last year, no Tariq Bracy, no Cam Hart. Clarence Lewis barely played in the game, right? It was just like the worst circumstance you would ever want against that offense, right? And so now you have Ben Morrison, you have Cam Hart, you have Thomas Harper, you have Clarence Lewis if you need him, right? Xavier Watts is playing better than he ever has. I think those guys in the slot, it's going to be a huge game again for Thomas Harper. He's going to have a huge matchup, not just in coverage, but also as a tackler. And the good thing is, I think he is a good tackler. I do. I think he's been a good tackler on the year. How much do you think they should? How much pressure do you think they should put on Williams, Jamie? I go back and forth on this.
I think it's like it's just dictated like on what I think it's just situational. That's kind of how you have to approach it. Like they definitely shouldn't be like blitzing like 40% of dropbacks.
For sure.
But you don't want to be like, I mean, if they did 30%, I think that's probably, just like I said, it's situational. I don't think that's a bad thing. Like you also have guys in your secondary that you have belief in. So that you think can win against most teams. And I know you don't want to put them in man that much, but you can do it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you have to do it sometimes because it's just one of those things too, because you have to, it's all about like, he thinks that zone, well, guess what? It's man and we're bringing pressure, right? Like that's what they did with Riley Leonard, really, right? Is that he always thought it was something and then it was something else. They did a fantastic job disguising it. And that's kind of what they got to do against Caleb Williams.
I think the blitzes have to be like, it's a lot of pressure on Al Golden.
Yeah.
You have to get there. They have to be like well-timed. You almost have to kind of like guess right. It's just, you got to get there, man. Like it's because if you don't, he'll find somebody. You'll find somebody, and it's like, when I say get there, I mean, like it has to come free. You have to be forcing him to get the ball out. If you blitz and they pick it up, that's death. It truly is. Like that's when you're at your most vulnerable. Indy stat sheet is asking, how worried are you with Harper against Washington Williams Branch after how he struggled against Egbuka? I would say, I don't know about worried. Those guys are good players, and they are very good at designing situations for them.
Some plays. Like it's gonna happen.
Yeah, it's the same thing with Egbuka. Like they are going to get them in situations where it's like it just has a tough matchup, very tough matchup. Ga Wang in the chat. Thank you for being here, Ga. To be clear, Riley Leonard is not Caleb. Got to get home. Don't worry about a big hit on the quarterback. Play contain and get him down.
Well, obviously he's not, Caleb Williams is better than Riley Leonard. I'm just talking about giving him that same kind of like level of confusion that you're going to delay what you got to take away that first read. Whatever he thinks that first read is, you just have to be able to do that. And if Caleb Williams pulls Houdini stuff and he ends up escaping and whatever, like that's obviously not what you want. Yeah, you have to be able to contain him and make him uncomfortable. But if you just give him the first read all day, it's just like they're going to score 50, right? And that's kind of what I meant, right? Is like, Caleb Williams is not going to have Riley Leonard's game against Notre Dame. Like that's not happening. He's not going to pass for under 50%.
Yeah.
Against Notre Dame. I don't see that happening. If they did, I mean, throw a parade for Al Golden in the defense.
You and Gar are on the same page, and we love to see that.
Yeah.
We love to see that. Here's the other thing about Caleb Williams. Like, he is the ultimate competitor. The ultimate competitor. He will find a way to beat you.
Yeah.
The play that he made on the goal line last week, Jamie, where like he is stopped at the 2-yard line, and he is able to keep himself up, laying on the ground, and laying on the ground, keeps himself up on top of the defender and reaches out. Like, ultimate competitor. This kid, to beat him, it's just like you have to outcompete him, and that's very difficult.
For 60 minutes, right? Or I mean, longer than 60 minutes for last week, but yeah.
Yeah. So it's just, you got to do that. And look, you know, it can be done. Utah's done it twice, right? So it can be done. C-Mac says, Golick said this has to be a Jalen Sneed game, bringing him on delay spy blitzes. I don't like. I think Jalen Sneed could make a play in this game, 100%. I mean, if there is a scenario where he just kind of just continues to win his matchup and causes problems, that's true. I mean, when you say Jalen Sneed game, like Marist, Burnham, Botelho, anyone could have that opportunity where it's like they can't deal with him for whatever reason. I don't love the idea of counting on Jalen Sneed to be the one to be the key against Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and then I think the other thing that people aren't taking into account, because everybody wants Jalen Sneed to have like a breakout game, is he's tackled very poorly this year. He misses a lot, like just in kind of every situation he's missed. So it's because he just like is kind of like a little bit out of control with how he plays. And it's not to say that he couldn't, like you said, make a big play or make a bunch of big plays. But I think thinking that he is all of a sudden going to be like, man, he's the key in this game and he's going to do all this. It's like, well, he hasn't shown it really. Like, and when he's had chances to kind of like finish plays, he hasn't. Yeah. Right. So I'm wary of putting too much, and saying like, yeah, he's got to do this. It's like, well, he hasn't done it. So this would be the first game against literally the best player in the country. That's a lot to ask.
Yeah. It's going to be a close game. I think Notre Dame, USC's not. Here's the other thing about the Vegas thing. USC's 2-4 against the spread. Yeah. When Vegas has kind of been squirrely about them, they've been right. They have. They've kind of had a good pulse for USC. So that's interesting. I do think that the fact that it's at home, I think that makes a big difference. And you gave good stats there on the difference between Sam Hartman at home and away. Same thing with the offensive line. I think Notre Dame is going to play well, just generally. So I do feel a lot better than I did like 2 days ago. 100%. I definitely feel better. What is your record? The preseason predictions, Jamie. What is your record against that?
Oh, I picked them to lose Ohio State in the preseason. And I picked them to beat Louisville. I picked them to go 11-1. So that I picked Ohio State to be their only whatever. Got it. I'm in my preseason picks. I'm perfect except for the Louisville game.
Yeah. I am 7-0. I picked them to lose Louisville kind of famously in the thing. And I did. And the narrative I put forth is like, people are doubting the program. People are doubting the program. And Notre Dame wins 48-31. And Marcus Freeman is like near tears in the press conference afterwards. Biggest win, program changer. I'm 5-2 weekly picks. Obviously, I have not picked them to lose weekly yet. I'm going to pick them to lose this time. Unfortunately. I think Caleb Williams. I think Notre Dame's going to play well, and Caleb Williams is going to find a way. And I don't want to do the thing where I just assume good play, especially from the offense. I understand all of USC's limitations and that sort of thing. I think they'll play better on offense, but I don't think that. I just don't think they'll have enough to do it, unfortunately. It is what it is, Jamie. I did not think I would pick Notre Dame to lose, but I do. I think they're going to lose the game. So I'm going to go USC 34, Notre Dame 30.
I picked USC to win as well. I just think ultimately, I do think Notre Dame's offense is going to score and kind of like look better, like a lot better in this game, just because of the opponent. I also think some of the stuff that they showed against Louisville, it's very fixable. Of this, it's not to say like long term, there's still concerning stuff, but like short term, they can fix that kind of stuff and still score a ton on USC's defense. I think they'll lose the turnover battle, and that's why, because I think one of the kind of things about Hartman, even though he didn't throw a pick until last game, he has put some balls in danger that were not picked earlier, and I just think that could happen. And so to me, it's a tight game, and whoever wins the turnover battle will win. And I picked USC 31, Notre Dame 27. And it's just the kind of thing where, I mean, Caleb Williams, if I'm being realistic about it, I wouldn't bet against him.
No.
I wouldn't bet against him. I just think he's that special. Like, guess what? I picked him to lose to Clemson last year, and then they beat the crap out of Clemson. So
yes,
could happen. I hope it happens. I hope Notre Dame wins the game. It's certainly a better situation for me when Notre Dame wins the game. So
for me as well. I just unfortunately I always approach this in good faith. I do, and even though I'm always picking Notre Dame, like I always kind of give them the benefit of the doubt of good play. And I just don't feel like that's warranted this time. I just don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I did it against Louisville and I did it against Duke. They tried to lose to Duke and they obviously did lose to Louisville. And so I just I can't give the benefit of the doubt this time. Hopefully we're wrong. I would love it. Yeah. I would love for everyone in the post game, which will be happening on Saturday right after the game is over. I hope everyone comes on and laughs at me and says, "Greg, you didn't believe and you're a moron." And I hope that's fine. I will absolutely take that. I hope there's 1,000 of you that say it.
I just want to mention one shout out in the comments. This Michael Dallas fan in DC1 Campbell, he always pops in there, usually on a Thursday.
Yeah.
And he is 1,000% fired up every week. And I mean, some of the takes, they're wild. I'm not going to lie. Some of the takes are wild.
The energy is good.
The energy. This is what I respect about Michael.
Okay.
Because he's a big all caps guy. Big all caps.
Big all caps.
He's a big all caps. But
I'll throw up.
He doesn't go all caps the entire way.
Yeah.
He will go all
emphasis
caps
added.
Here. Emphasis added. Like, this guy puts thought into the all caps. He's not going all caps all the way. And just, you know what, man? I appreciate that, because there's a lot of guys that they're like, hey, guess what? I'm angry. All caps the entire way. No, selective all caps. I get it. Tip my cap.
We salute you, Michael.
My cap. 40
it's
points
good.
Mentally. Yeah, love it.
Good stuff. It's good stuff, Michael. So look, kudos to you, man. Well, I love you in the show. I love reading your stuff. Sometimes, but I think Michael, he just likes to get stuff off his chest.
Yes,
and that's
he's
good.
a passionate fan.
I appreciate it. It's like, it's not awful bad. So Michael, thank you for being here. We love you being here, and we love everyone who takes in our content. Jamie and I will be back after the game is over on Saturday. Hopefully we're wrong, Jamie. You're going to want to check us out there. I have my morning after recap that's coming on Sunday, as always. And then we'll be back next week into the bye. Right, normal schedule in the bye week. So we're not gonna be leaving you there. So thank you everyone for tuning in. If you like what you heard, please hit the like button. Please hit subscribe. Please hit the notification bell. Links to the pod are in the description below. Have a good weekend, everyone. Hope you enjoy the game, and we'll see you after the game. Keep hitting and hustling.